Hello. I wanted to share a story with you today. I was thinking about this story recently, and it made me smile again. And I thought, you know what, maybe people would like to hear this story, and I would like to start archiving some of these for the sake of the future. This story is one of my favorites of my hometown, Minnedosa, Manitoba. Uh, this is this takes place a couple years after I had graduated. I had moved away and gone to college, and I was back for the summer, staying with my mom. And as I was there, I was hanging out with some friends. We went down to the local bar to shoot some pool, and spending time together, and it was lovely. It's always interesting after you graduate how even the dynamics of your friendships and all that kind of stuff change and shift, and you don't have that culture of high school where like everything seems so monumental and all the relationships seem set in stone and nothing shifts. But once you go out and experience a little bit of the world and come back together, things are different. And I remember as we were hanging out, having a good time. In walks our elementary school principal, Mr. Hoglund. In Minnedosa, there's one elementary school, there's one high school. So, all of us, know Mr. Hoglund. And he had come in, I guess he was at a wedding earlier that night. And he was stopping by. And he sees us, he comes over and he starts chatting with us. And we're catching up. What is everybody doing? How's it going? All this kind of stuff. It was a very lovely time. It's strange to like hang out with, teachers and principals and all that kind of stuff once you leave the school too, because it's like, oh, we don't have to have this facade that you have authority over me anymore, right? Like we can like let down the guard. It's like, yeah, we're human. And that's what was so fascinating about this encounter, especially to see Mr. Hoglund like a little tipsy. Like, look, he was at a wedding, and it was just funny to see him kind of like laughing and having a good time and talking with us. And the best part was, my one friend Graham was chatting with Mr. Hoglund, and those two knew each other a little bit better because in school, Graham was a little bit more of a, got in a little bit more trouble than I did. And so you would spend time in the principal's office, and the two of them, who, once again, lightly drunk, the two of them, to watch this encounter of Graham like, look, I got in trouble, but, when you were hard on me, you were, I deserved it. And, meanwhile, the principal, Mr. Hoglund, is just like, yeah, I was stern, but, I was never unfair. I only, I didn't come after you if you weren't in trouble. And he's like, it's true. And, like, watching this whole, it was like seeing, like, two former enemies from two sides of the war, like, coming together. And I was like, you know what? The war is done now. It's fine. And it's fun watching this. The thing was, as I was watching this encounter, like, I didn't have this connection to Mr. Hoglund. I never really got in trouble. And so, I remember at one point, he's checking in with me, like, what was I doing? And I was telling him that. And it's just like, as he's talking about, look, I always, gave you a hard time, but I never came after you. But this, David, this guy was an effing saint. And it killed me. I died, and I don't think I've been alive since. I've been walking around as a corpse. Because to call somebody an effing saint is so wonderful. And of course, he used the full language, but look, I don't want to get banned on YouTube. So, you gotta cut the language. But he went full force. And to hear that coming out of an elementary school's principal's mouth is, I could, that is beautiful. That is beautiful. I would love to experience that all of the time. Because here's the thing. As I said, I didn't really get in trouble. There was one time, though. This reminded me of this other story. When I was in grade 6, and I was with Graham, along with a couple of other friends, we were hanging out, and like recess was going, so we were heading outside, And we were kind of like roughhousing a little bit, and I didn't really roughhouse too much. But in this case, we were just kind of like all pushing, and it was like this group of 4 like kids just kind of wrestling and slowly making our way to the front door. And as we were going, I was like, I'm enjoying this. It's fun to have friends to roughhouse with. And I pushed from the back the one kid, and he like went into the kid in front of him who bumped into Graham, and we all tripped over each other. And the weight of the 4 kids together was more than enough to crash into this library bookshelf, because the way our library was set up, it wasn't like its own separate room. It was in this giant room, and the walls of the library were made up of the library bookshelves going around as a perimeter, and then on the outside was like where the hallway was. And so we hit that, and it toppled like a domino, and just you see this whole cloud of dust come up, and the 4 of us froze, and we immediately 4 separate ways just like ran away, and immediately got caught. Just bang, 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 like the gym teacher saw us. She's like, stop right there. And we got immediately collected and shipped off to the principal's office. And that was my first encounter. And of course, at this point, Graham was used to being there. You know, he was casually, well, whatever. Not really afraid of what was going to happen. Meanwhile, and I'm seeing this, and I'm just trying to act cool. Yeah, this is not bad. Yeah, I'm cool here. Don't worry. Yeah, this is probably going to be fine. I was terrified of being in trouble, because that's the worst thing you can do to somebody who's like this little Christian boy. Trouble. Could you imagine anything worse? Because I had no idea what was going to happen. And, Mr. Hoglund comes in. He's used to seeing these other kids. And David, what are you doing here? And he finds out the story and all this kind of stuff. The thing is, how it all kind of happened, I was the only one that had the view of, like, pushing. I was the only one that saw the push that happened. To the other 3, they weren't 100% sure of like what happened. Everybody just knew that they tripped and fell and all hit this. And so we didn't want to, and it was like that thing of I pushed the one kid, that kid pushed another, that kid pushed. So nobody was 100% sure. So we were like, oh, we'll just all go down together, kind of like, well, we don't know. We're roughing around, and we kind of fell, and it was an accident. And meanwhile, the whole time I was biting my lip, just like, but I was the one that did it. It was me. I know who is the villain in this scenario. But I was just like, I'm going down together with the 4 of them. Maybe it'll be like, maybe the amount of trouble will be split 4 ways, I guess. I don't know. So, it winds up that it was right before the last period of class when this had happened, and we were told, well, you're going to have to put the library shelf back up, put the books back on it. And the funny thing is, in order to do that, that means we had to miss art class, where the point of the project in art that day was to make a poster about safety, which, beautiful irony on that one. But that was the only time I ever got in trouble with Mr. Hoglund. And as he was saying, you're an effing saint, I thought of that story immediately. And I just remember thinking in that moment, everybody's laughing, having a good time. I'm laughing more than anybody else. Because, yeah, Mr. Hoglund, who is the effing saint? The one that gets away with it and blames it on the others. Woo! Anyways, so basically what I'm telling you is, if you have the chance to get drunk with your elementary school principal, I highly recommend. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you have a good day. Take care.